It's 2 a.m. in the engineering library. Laptops glow and someone whispers, "One more chapter." Sounds familiar? Hang tight. There's a name for what you're feeling. Hello, everyone. I'm Carson Giordano, and this is the College Chronicles, the show that zooms in on the hidden pressure points of college life. Today, we're tackling burnout and mental health struggles among college students, especially those of us in STEM. I won't be tackling this alone today. Joining me is my fellow English classmate, Vuk Mandic, a former chemical engineering major who's been open about his battle with burnout and mental health struggles and what pulled him out of engineering in general.
Thanks for having me, Carson. Happy to be here. I think this is a very important conversation that we're having, and not too many people address what we're about to talk about.
Exactly. So for a little statistic here, it's pretty surprising. The Healthy Mind survey shows that more than 60% of college students meet the criteria for at least one mental health problem, a 50% jump since 2013. Engineering, physics, and comp sci majors have it even higher. Vuk, when you hear those numbers, do they line up with what you see around you?
I'd say for sure I do, because, just in our friend group, we have a bunch of people who are burned out. I already know a couple guys who switch majors either out of STEM or something less demanding in STEM. So I think it's definitely a real thing around us. And I think it's something that is not something we can fix right away, but something we have to kind of build over time.
Yeah, I totally agree. Even personally, my experience with engineering, you look back to first semester and it's as the months go on, the work piles up. It feels worse and worse and worse. The more you go to class, the less you want to be here, and you can't even pay attention in lectures, and grades go down. It's really not a...
It's not a pleasant experience.
Yeah, it's really not even... It's not productive for succeeding in school. So definitely something needs to be done about it. All right, so when you're a STEM student, right, a lot of STEM students are kids who, throughout growing up and all of high school, have been told that they're gifted. And when you're gifted, you're kind of told that you have to succeed, and you kind of set this own standard for yourself that you're going to be perfect. And research by Kaplan and Geoffroy says gifted students internalize high expectations, laying the groundwork for perfectionism and fear of failure. Vuk, you were in the gifted track growing up. Can you paint a picture of us how that label followed you into college and what expectations you felt on yourself, just maybe not from the outside, but on an inside standard?
Well, I think definitely for me, I was in those quote unquote advanced classes, but I was never somebody who was breezing through them. I always had to put in the work. Mm-hmm. And then I know a lot of our cohort and engineering orientation, they all believe none of them really had to put in work. They've said it themselves. They all kind of just breeze through it. But in a way, I guess that helped me because, I already kind of had the work ethic to get here, but it also burned me out because I was already doing that for 2-3 years of high school. And then when I got to college, it was just another step up. And then, from there, it was just straight burnout.
Totally. You look at a lot of these kids, and, I won't name any of them, but you see some that are, breezing through these courses. They can pretty much not even go to lecture and get an A on the test, or some of them do have to work for it. And, I respect those kids a lot. I'd say I'm one of them. I'd think you're one of them, too. And just, a lot of these kids are gifted, and they do set these standards for themselves, and then it's really hard to meet them in college, especially in these STEM courses. But burnout bridges stress to real-world fallout, emotional exhaustion, detachment, the works. Saxena's 2024 study links it to attention failure. Personally, I struggled with attention failure a lot, especially recently towards the end of the semester. You get towards the nicer weather, you don't want to be in lecture. You don't want to be sitting there listening to some mumbo jumbo about physics and fucking, I don't know. But Vuk, what did burnout look for you day to day? I know you obviously changed majors, and so did I, but you chose a little early on. So I want to know what was going through your brain that, really caused you to do it, and what did burnout look like for you?
So for me, the decision really came from when I thought to myself, what were the important things to me, like within my life, right? Like, so obviously, I decided that for me it was my time, my health, and then I guess my financial status, which doesn't really apply right now because I'm in college. But when I was in engineering, I would first semester I would spend so much time just studying and doing everything and all that, and I just never had time for my friends, the gym, anything that was super beneficial to me in terms of my health. So I don't think that burnout is something that happens instantaneously. I think it's a long process because I think semester 1 I was fine. I mean, I was a little bit burnt out, but then even that break didn't help me that much because I was still always thinking about engineering and all that. I was even looking at some of my classes before I went in. But I think for me the final needle in the haystack was that in Calc 2 when I was we were putting in so much work. We were studying we studied 2-3 weeks straight for one exam, and we still bombed. And I think for me that was just
the final straw.
Pinnacle of the burnout. It's now I'm putting in the work, but I'm still not getting anything back.
Yeah, it's you put in hours and hours of effort and studying and just spending time reading textbooks, taking the best notes in lectures and studying, and then you get to the test and you bomb it. Personally, for our first Calc 2 test, maybe I was a little unprepared and I bombed that test. But for the second one, I was going to be sure that I wasn't going to bomb it. And, I spent weeks, just studying, going to office hours. Me and Vuk spent mornings and office hours before class. And, day of the test comes and it just didn't go in my favor, So that's just a demoralizing thing in that, I would say I was already suffering a little bit from burnout. I would say, first semester was definitely not awful, but I definitely at the end of it I felt pretty burnt out. And then once you get to Calc 2 and just when you put in all that work and it doesn't work out, it's hard to see a reason inside to keep going. So it's really burnout's just it's not a good thing, and I think it's really one of the main reasons a lot of kids transfer out of engineering. But
I agree.
Yeah. Let's see. Let's talk about coping mechanisms now. There's a lot of ways you can try and reduce burnout, showing mindfulness, self-compassion, social support, hanging out with friends. And, I think there's still a lot of stigma, especially when you're in this big program that me and Vuk were in, where you don't want to admit that you're struggling, academically and mentally, because you see all these other kids that are doing so well, and then you're why am I not doing well? And then that just makes you feel worse about yourself. So it's kind of hard even to admit to yourself that you're burnout or that you need help. And some of these good ways to kind of reduce burnout is just simply take a step back, go for a walk, try and just be there in the moment. I remember I would go to lectures and I'd be I'm trying to let me actually try and retain this information. And it's you kind of got to be there in the moment. And as hard as it is to focus, and how easy it is just to daydream, you got to just kind of be in the moment and kind of be mindful of it and be, take time for yourself. And there's more to life than just school, and it's all right if you don't do that well. But Vuk, what are some of the things that you would do, or that you would try and do to make yourself focus, or make yourself try and push to do that final assignment or something like that, if you have anything that comes to mind?
Well, I guess for me, I would always think about just getting it out the way so like I can be done with it like once and for all. I guess like for assignments, it wasn't like horrible because assignments are like, you know, if you just put in the work, usually you can like get them done. I think the bigger issue at hand is when you have an exam or something of that nature coming up.
Yeah.
Just because, like, you know, for a lot of other majors that aren't STEM, I feel like you could, like, brutally, like, memorize and study your way through the course content. But for engineering, you have to really understand what you're doing. Otherwise, you're going to fail. And then that's where burnout becomes an issue, is because when you're burnt out, your ability to understand the content that you are presented with is a lot lower. So in turn, you do a lot worse on tests, and then your studying is also less effective.
Definitely. It's like, really, like, no other major is like a STEM major because, like, in my opinion, I feel like a lot of business majors, like psychology majors, even like biology majors, I feel like a lot of it can just be memorizing, and if you can kind of sit there and grind through it. But for like an engineering major, if you're sitting there and you're trying to figure out like a physics problem or a Calc 2 problem that you don't know, it's like, it's pretty hard to do it by yourself versus like other majors. I feel like it can be pretty straightforward. But there's definitely, you know, it's definitely an issue, and you know, it's definitely something needs to be done about this. And I believe that more people need to, you know, maybe not admit, but more people need to be okay with, you know,
struggling and like getting over that and understanding others. Is that
like showing that you're like struggling and like telling other people, because when you tell other people like that you're experiencing the same thing, you know, it makes it feel more normal. And of course it's normal. Like, you could be, burnout's normal in any situation, in your job, in any major. You could be like a communications major, and I'm sure you'd still be burnt out. So talking about it definitely helps bring awareness to it. And, you know, another way that we can kind of help reduce burnout is just by having more colleges talk about it more openly and providing services for students. I think that'd be very beneficial for colleges to like have maybe a part of their counseling area, or maybe not even a part of their counseling area, somewhere in the building where you can learn how to like properly manage your burnout and like what to do and how to like get over symptoms. Because a lot of kids, I feel like, they get burnt out of it, and then they're like, maybe college isn't for me. And, you know, I'm not saying that college isn't for everybody, but I think it would be good for just awareness to be brought, and more resources to be
put towards the subject and the, I guess we can call it a crisis, because that's what it really is. It's a mental health and burnout crisis within colleges.
Yeah, I totally agree. Any final thoughts, Vuk?
No, I would just say for, like, if you're a student and you're struggling with your burnout or mental health, just like know that you're not the only one. Like, I know sometimes it feels like you're the only one who's struggling, and that is like the worst feeling, because you see, like you were saying, you see other people who are doing well, and then you're like burnt out / struggling. But it's okay, because, you know, I think everything like is going to work itself out at the end. So if you are struggling, just keep trying your best. It's the only advice I could really give.
I totally agree. I would say my final piece of advice for everybody out there listening would be, really, you just got to find a sense of like, you just got to build like a group of people who can like hold you up and hold you accountable. Because, I mean, personally, I feel like when you're with a group of people, it can like help you, like, just, I believe that like people make people happy, and if you're happy, you're going to be less burnt out, you're going to feel more productive and things like that. And there's actually a quote from a study done, according to Yang, self-compassion contributes to a higher sense of coherence, which in turn mediates mental health outcomes. So that kind of enforces what I said, that like if you have compassion for yourself and you're with other people, overall that's going to raise your mental health outcomes. But yeah, I think that's
about it.
That's about it for our discussion on mental health and burnout today. Thank you for listening to the College Chronicles. I've been your host, Carson Giordano. Thank you for coming on today, Vuk. It was wonderful to have you.
Thank you for having me, Carson.